cheers. There is a reason why I say good evening, and there is a reason why I say cheers. Fairly wish. Good evening is because we are starting off on a fairly positive note. Cheers because at the end of the 90 minutes, you won't have cocktails for dinner. So next 90 minutes is going to be really, I would say it's almost like going in an aircraft. You wouldn't know that is something which I can bet. The next 90 minutes, you are not going to feel the time the way in which it's going to go. How many of you know that actually wireless technology was invented in India? And one of the archaeologists proved that wireless existed even way back in Mahabharata times. Actually, to prove this, what they did is they took 3 archaeologists, one from Germany, one from US and one from India. So the German took all the people way back into Germany and into the situation which existed in 1930s. And they asked people to dig, and they started digging and digging and digging and digging, and after 1,500 feet, they saw the old telephone cables. And he said, you see, we are fairly good in telecommunications. We had, even during Hitler days or before, we had telephones in Germany. So the American took all the people, all the archaeologists from America, he took them back to US. They started digging, digging, digging. After 100 feet, they found optic fiber cables. And he said, you know, we had optic fiber cables even way back in the 1900s when we started. Obviously, we should have been ahead of everybody else. And finally, the Indians said, let's go to Kurukshetra, where the climax war was held over 18 days. And they asked him to take 100 feet, 200 feet, 300 feet, 500 feet. He said, we don't find anything. You see, I told you, wireless existed even way back in Mahabharata. Expand your capabilities. One of the things which typically is required for growth is for us to go beyond what we are normally capable. Normally we have restrictions about how we work. We think that this is what we can do. We get stuck to what we are capable of doing. And we never go beyond what normally is a possible situation. This is a limitation of the mind rather than the fact. The people who have proven in life that they are really good in going beyond the obvious are the people like the TCS slogan you have seen, going beyond the obvious. If you have to go beyond the obvious, you need to understand what your capabilities are. Go beyond that and expand your business. That's what it exactly means. The second one obviously means that you are going to look at taking your boundaries beyond what is the normal one. A home player remains a home player. A corporate player remains a corporate player. A government player remains a government player. You know, it goes on like that where the segments are made. You don't want to look something beyond that. We are stuck to what we are. We are not looking beyond what are the normal boundaries which we lay for ourselves. They say normally that the power of an elephant is never understood by the elephant because by simply putting a rope on its neck and tying it to a small sort of a wall you just put there, and the elephant thinks it can't escape, it gets stuck there. We all do the same mistake where we think this is what we can do. I'm a GAD, I cannot sell beyond boxes. I'm a GAD, nobody is going to accept me for my credibility. I can only sell assembled machines where I'm done with. I can't go in technology beyond. He's just opening the file because he's just trying to transfer it through the infrared, through the access point.
I think the content about the price is also good. I think just go out and pick up the order. Thanks.
Okay, good, thanks. It just shows a small situation. It might look very dramatic, but the reason behind the dramatization is to show you the possibilities when information today is knowledge, and knowledge is power, and power is what is going to make you successful in business. If the people in your customers' locations are going to face similar situations, how is it they are going to be equipped with better stuff for them to go ahead and take decisions? And you have to take control of the situation. Don't take situations take control of you. Many times we come to a situation where it boils down to price situation, straight 1 in 1 fight. The typical chess grandmaster game. There is one lady who was just traveling in a ship, and she found that there are 2 grandmasters in the ship, and she just wanted to make money out of them. One was superior to the other, obviously. So what she went and said to the person who was superior is that she said, I'll bet $500 with you that I can beat you. And obviously this person said, come on, you don't even know how to hold a chessboard. You don't know that the right square has to be wide or whatever. She said, no, you take the bet if you have the guts. And he says, okay, $500, why waste it? Why? He says, fine. And she goes to the next grandmaster and says that I can beat you. And the bet is $1,000. And he's obviously the lesser ranked grandmaster. And he looks at her and says, okay, $1,000 just to go in the ship, it's really fine. And then the game starts, the GM1 makes the first move. She goes to the second room, makes this move against the other person. Effectively, the two grandmasters are playing against each other, and obviously the grandmaster with the higher yellow rating wins. And she gains 1,000 and pays him 500, she still retains $500. All of you are familiar with the story in real life as a GAD. The first step is very similar to what a sculptor typically does with a statue that is carving out. It's very clearly said, replicate successes, eliminate failures. Normally they say a sculptor, what he does when he's looking at making sort of a figure out of his stone, he removes what is not required and keeps only what is needed. Like that, out of all of us have in this room, I can easily see a lot of people whom I have known in this room before. You put in 20-25 years of experience. That surely is a success formula you know which works. Kindly ensure you make a note of all that which has made you successful. Eliminate all those failure points which you have gone through in life in terms of running the business. Ensure that is duplicated across the organization. I know this is how it works. I have been through it. 20 years, 25 years, I have been through it. Maybe the person who joins last week in the organization with 1 or 2 years experience may not realize that. You have the wisdom which they don't have, obviously, being a business owners. Do you duplicate yourself? Have you sensed the market? Like one of the stories they talk about a tide in a river. There was a tide in a river where people had to cross and go. So this person saw the tide before it came. He just took his boat, hashed on, and he went to the other side quickly. The other guy who saw the tide come still sort of managed after the tide. He just caught on it, still made it. And the third guy was sitting all along on the other side. The comparison is simple. The first guy saw ahead and did. The second guy did as it was happening. The third guy sat around and asked what happened. You might just, what I already did, sorry. Can you just punch my hand? Punch?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Now you can. Can you punch my hand? What is the problem? Okay, what are we trying to say here? The statement very clearly says you are talking about developing plans and goals. When I showed my hand, which I asked the gentleman to sort of hit, that was the goal that I wanted him to reach. The plan was the thought that he made that, okay, this is the way I'm going to do, this is the way I'm going to lift my hand, this is the way I'm going to reach the target and beat it. When the hand vanished, obviously he wasn't able to do it. It is very simple, but it's a very powerful learning. Unless you have a very clear goal, you are not going to reach anywhere. It's like a person who went to the station and said in Chennai Central, I want a return ticket to Chennai Central. And the person asked, you have to tell me from where you want to come back. He said, that's none of your business, give me a return ticket to Chennai Central. And that is a typical win-win situation. It's very, very easy to talk about a win-win situation unless you experience it. Having Stephen Covey and people like Jack Welch have talked extensively about this. Stephen Covey in his Habits of Sight, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, talks about interpersonal leadership where anything which is not a win-win is never going to be a long-lasting relationship. My job is to run my business. I'm not worried about what is intercentrino. But what the intercentrino can do to me is something which I'm interested in. The first ball he hits for a 6. On the other end, Sachin comes in, he can wax Schwab for a 6 in the first ball. But are both the same? One person cannot repeat himself later. The other person can repeat it continuously all the time. That makes the difference between continuously doing the experience that you bring in. The wisdom which we can approach the business is something phenomenal. I mean, there is always a saying that you live your life by choice. Nobody forced you to become an Indian leader. None of us were forced when we initially, whenever we did this business, the Indian came and said, no, without you, we will die. Please take up leadership. It is a mutual win-win situation. They found a winning partner. You found a winning partner in them, you went in.
Yeah, I was just standing outside and I got one big inquiry with me. So this is pretty urgent. So I would like you to teach us how to handle this inquiry. It's a pretty big order. I don't want to tell in front of so many people. About a crore.
I'm just going to the next session, what I would call as Dare to be Free. But in the process already, I think he has given me something very interesting. I have on hand, apparently an inquiry given by Ashok in this is Madras market?
Yeah.
Okay, Madras market. Good. An inquiry which he says is for computer products, Intel products, more or less I guess, for around a crore. How many in this room would like to have this? Can I have a raise of hands? Good. 1, 2, 3, 4. Only 8, 10, 12, that's all. The others don't want. Okay, how many of you really want it? How many of you desperately want it? Nobody wants it desperately. I mean, it's enough for you to just make a wish and sit there and expect to get the inquiry from my hand. Is there somebody who think you can take it?
Give it, no?
Good. Why you did that when others didn't do? Can you just explain?
See, I felt that you want that there should be a desire and a fire to take it at any rate.
Thank you. Normally what happens in our life, which I normally tell everyone, is that we wish for things, what I would like to call as armchair wishing. We sit there, wish that we made that crore of order, we made that 100 pieces order, we made the notebook order, we made the wireless order. I mean, this gentleman showed the difference between visual thinking and getting into action. But you find a situation wherein the people don't go out and take action. They sit in office, they don't chase your dreams. I like to play the game of fishing a lot. So I'm going to enact a small story in front of you. Since I want to be very clear that now I have retired out of fishing, you have started taking over the fishing opportunity. It is something I want to take seriously. I want a lot of money, huge sea, huge ocean. You can just take as many fish as you want. The message which I think comes very clearly is that the sea out there is like Intel. The fish are the various products that Intel has, and the entire market is out there in the sea for you to go and get. And the market is so huge, I don't think anyone can ever catch all the fish in the ocean. Which means the market which is existing is so small that we approach today. Unfortunately, like many fishermen, what we do is, we go to that segment where everyone brings the boat. All of us go to the same segment where it has been fished enough. We find fights, only an Ongole segment is there, a Chennai segment, and then you go Kadalur. In between, the sea and everything else is so huge, we all miss out. And the sea many times has fish which just dies. He's like a customer who never buys a PC because he was never sold. I can't do something which is your problem. I can do are the people who go out and make it big. I'll give you 3 imaginary rings. 3 imaginary rings. You'll have to imagine some gifts that you want to take from that trade fair. Use it and then tell me what it took and then go back. Is that fine? Can you have starting with you? Understood the game? Okay? You just start. 3 imaginary rings I give you. You can decide 3 articles you want to take and then take it and then go back. Okay? 1, 2, 3. Normally I take a lot of sessions on leadership seminars and goal setting exercise and all that. And one of the things which people commonly do, which normally you don't expect a person when he is very clear on goals, is that when you set a goal, you have to be clear on what you want first. I mean, this gentleman at least was good, he was very clear, he said very clearly what he wanted. Second, you have to define the parameter. I never told you the distance has to be this. You could have redefined the parameters. You could have set a longer distance. You could have defined what you wanted. You could have walked across, measured and gone back to say this is exactly the distance. To cover this distance, this is the speed at which I have to throw the ring. This is the trajectory I have to take. I mean, I'm just giving you small examples, even in a game of ring, how people normally respond. This is exactly something which you can reflect in your real life when it comes to goal setting, which is the next step you're going to take. If you are given a goal of reaching a particular object, how do you approach is determined by how you play this game. Normally, otherwise, what happens is that you never get to reach your goal because you didn't have one to start with. Second, you haven't measured the distance, you haven't checked out the environmental factors, you haven't seen what are the various parameters out there. Is that something that I have done? Maybe my chance of achieving are much better. I'll give you a minute. I just want you to write one goal that you want to write for doing something about Intel business. And the second, that you want to do something about your personal life. 2 goals. One personal life, the one about Intel business.
To become a leading southern regional brand player.
For Intel?
For Intel.
Okay, good.
Personal ambition is concerned to give more employment for more number of people.
Great. Your good name, sir?
Anand, SBA Computer Services.
I will just want to ask you, how many of you think all these goals that you have said would really turn into reality? The good news is that I like your conviction, but the tough news is that it's going to take a while because there are certain things that you need to be very clear when you set a goal for it to really unfold. Is your goal smart? For a simple reason, they say that dream with a deadline is a goal. If you have a deadline, it's a goal, otherwise it still remains a dream. If a goal will have to work, it needs to confirm what is called as a SMART principle to start with. And then of course it has to go to action plan and all that. The SMART consists of 5 letters. S, starting the goal will have to be specific. If you are going to say that I am going to be happy, I want to build a home, it is not specific. You can't achieve something which is not specific, because as I said, when I showed my hand, there was a specific goal that you needed to achieve. When it was not there, you couldn't do it. A specific goal is when you very clearly define. If you say Intel wireless product, again it is not exactly specific. You have to be specific to the goal. If you're talking about buying a Chevrolet, you have to say Chevrolet what color. You have to go to the extent, you have to even say this is a number plate. Who is going to measure it for you? It's extremely difficult. Is it number 1 by revenue? Is it number 1 by customer satisfaction? Is it number 1 by number of processes sold? Is it number 1 by the turnover alone? Is it number 1 by the number of branches you have? Is it number 1 by the amount of employees you have? What is it? It's not exactly measurable. You can go around saying, like this is what you will find. Everybody is saying this is the number 1 brand in India. All of us are confused because nobody knows. There is absolutely no way in which you can measure your goals if you cannot compare it with something and say this is the standard I am going to compare it with. That takes us to the next step, A, called achievable. Scientists have found, which has been recorded long time back, the central nervous system what we have cannot differentiate between what actually happens and what we imagine to have happened. What actually happens and what we imagine to have happened, the central nervous system cannot differentiate. Which means a person who continuously feels the goal is achievable. There are many goals that we have seen in life have not been done by somebody else before, like going to Mount Everest first. Had anyone done before Tenzing went along with Hillary? Nobody did it. And you take the goal of reaching the moon. I don't think before Neil Armstrong anybody else had gone there. Had he thought, or had the US astronaut, the team had thought that it is not possible, they wouldn't have tried it. Gandhi, had he not decided to dream that Indian freedom is possible, at the time freedom didn't exist for India. He could not have imagined. You need to imagine something and feel that it is achievable. If you set a target saying I do 1,000 processes, which is specific, which is measurable, and if you feel it is achievable, you can surely do it. Because the question of then finding what you have to do to reach that. They say that if you want to become a CEO 5 years from now of, say, a bank, I want to become the CEO of Citibank in India. I have to start. If say Ashok thinks he wants to become like Amar Babu, Director Sales and Marketing South Asia, he has to start thinking like Amar Babu today. If he start thinking like that today, he can go there. If he says, I'll start thinking like Amar Babu after I become that post, he may not do that. The 5th principle is when it has to be time bound. It has to be very clear that you need to set a time. This is something which I have to tell you. If you want a target achieved, you set a day. You set a day, you set the year, you set the month, you set the time, you set everything possible. If you say 31st of October 2003, it has to be, if you say it's a Sunday at 10 p.m. whatever, you can then visualize, you get the grand picture. Once you get these principles in, then you can start going backwards and putting the plan in action. There was this old man sitting in the seaside, and there are a lot of starfishes being washed out onto the shore. So what he does is he just sits there and keeps taking them back and putting them back in the sea. And he keeps on doing it day after day and day after day, and there is this young man in the nearby place who just watches. He doesn't know what this person is doing. Quite a few times he's asking them, what are you doing, old man? He just said, don't waste my time. He just keep doing that. But he sees that many times the fishes what he's throwing back into the sea comes back as dead fish. Some point of time he says, I have to find the truth from this person as to what it is all about. When you hold the old man and ask him, I want you to tell me what exactly is it that you are doing. Can't you see that every fish that you are throwing into the sea comes back? The tide, as you're throwing, the tide is coming up, the tide is hitting and then coming back, the fish is coming to the shore and it's dying. And at that point of time, he takes a fish and throws it beyond the tide, it goes into the sea. My dear friend, it made a difference to that single fish. So in all my sessions, even if it consists of 20 people or 150 people, there is at least one person who has got some learning, my job is done. Ask yourself these questions, my dear friend, and take a right decision based on the facts that you have on hand right now. Intel, along with me, is with you, my dear friend. Intel has the best of the technology,
the best of the schemes, the best of the deliverables, the best of everything that you and I can imagine asking for. Intel has the future right here with us to help you succeed in your business, succeed beyond your wildest imagination. If only you are willing to dream and dare to be free. Go ahead and dream. Dream Intel. Dream big. Dream really big and set yourself free forever. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks. I think hopefully this session, what S.Prakash did was motivating for you and also useful for you. We've asked specifically to make it very simple and useful for you. And lastly, I think one key message which I think I personally drew out of this session was the difference between ordinary and extraordinary is that little extra.